and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Ladies, wouldn't it be amazing to support a skincare company that shares our values and celebrates faith, family, and freedom, and proudly stands behind Christian and conservative causes? Well, I have found the perfect skincare brand, and it's called Nimi. Nimi offers simplified daily routines that cleanse, brighten, protect, and help fight the key signs of aging. You can literally just clear out your cabinet and replace all of your miscellaneous products with an effective routine from Nimi. Nimi offers clean, effective skincare proudly made in the USA that stands strong against the woke, progressive beauty companies who back anti-American causes. Nimi has luxurious skincare for all skin types, offering cleansers, toners, moisturizers, serums, and more. I personally love Nimi's Clean line as it offers high-end, clean skincare products that are free from fragrances and other chemicals that may disrupt your skin's natural microbiome. Build a custom bundle and save up to 20% off your routine. Plus, use code LARA, L-A-R-A, for an additional 15% off. Visit nimiskincare.com, that's N-I-M-I skincare.com, to elevate your routine with America's skincare company, or click the link below in the bio to save big on your order using code LARA today for a discount of 15%. Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. We are joined tonight by former Democrat Audrey McNeal. Audrey, welcome to The Right View. We're excited to talk to you because I got to ask you, you canvassed for Raphael Warnock, you campaigned for Stacey Abrams, and confirmed Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at the DNC as a delegate. So please tell me, how did you find yourself not supporting the Democrats in the 2024 election?
Well, thank you so much, Laura, for having me. I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to be, I think, the newest one in the Republican Party. So it is quite a story. You know, it was not a slow process. It was very slow. It was a very slow process. It was also a very gradual process. It was not something that was overnight, and not to be like anticlimactic, but it wasn't even like a light bulb moment. It was really a snowball moment, and things just kind of snowballed until it was until I just couldn't let it go. But let me get back just into my background just a little bit. So I was born in Georgia, lifelong Democrat. My parents are Democrats. My grandparents are Democrats. My dad was actually a delegate for Obama back in 2012.
Wow.
Grandparents were in the Air Force. They lived all over the world. They lived in Japan and in Korea, always represented American values. And that was basically like my story. But I ended up being kind of like on the conservative side of the Democratic Party. I was very much moderate. I went to a very Republican school, so there was a lot of debate. I never was disowned by any of my friends for having any kind of different political opinions, so I always stood by mine. I never had a reason not to. And I even started a club in high school called Political Converse. It was a club that brought Democrats and Republicans together to debate and to come up with bipartisan solutions.
How refreshing. Wow, Audrey, I love that. Imagine that. Imagine that that's like how our country was founded. Good for you.
So true. But yeah, I was more of a uniter than a divider. I was always involved in the American Legion. I cared about free speech, civil liberties, the Constitution. I can still quote the Federalist Papers off the top of my head. And so that really made me a Democrat. I also thought that, we revered the civil rights movement. We revered presidents like JFK. We revered even presidents like Roosevelt, who were probably judged by history to be more progressive nowadays. But those were the things that we revered. And then also, I was very inspired to get into politics while I was young. I know that all of our founding fathers, or most of our founding fathers, were under 40. A lot of them qualified as founding teenagers and founding 20-somethings. And civil rights movement, another great movement in American history, all run by young people, at least the leaders of it. They were apolitical, but they started really young. And so I never felt out of place getting involved young and in politics. So my changes really started to happen between 2020 and 2024. A lot of things happened in my life. Some of it was maturity, but some of it was also I had graduated from college. I had lived on my own at this point. I had a little job experience, odd jobs here and there. I was an assistant preschool teacher. I was a hostess at a restaurant. And so basically, a lot of things changed. Rent was $4,000 a month at this point in New York. Gas prices were high, inflation was high, grocery prices were high. And I really started to think more about who was leading the Democratic Party. And some doubt did creep into my mind about Joe Biden and his health. By the time I was watching the State of the Union, everything looked like it was fine. I had my suspicions, but you know what? Okay, he looks like he was fine. And then between the State of the Union and Joe Biden's debate, that was when the mask completely fell off. So there were definitely some people that had long access to the president. I had never been in the same room as Joe Biden or Kamala Harris until the DNC, actually. So the people who knew the extent of Joe Biden's health was definitely his staff and the people that surrounded him. So the fact that we were lied to by the Democratic Party leadership, the staff, and the media really started to settle in at that point, especially when MSDNC, and I will always call it MSDNC, started to tell us that Joe Biden had a cold. And I was just like, you know what?
God.
Yeah.
It's so insulting, Audrey. You're like, wait, what? No, I can see, I have eyes. I can see what's going on here. This isn't right. That's amazing. By the way, that you noticed that, because that's one of the things, and I want you to finish your whole thought, but that's one of the things that I think a lot of people, especially on the Republican side of the aisle, were like, really? Like, there are people who are lifelong Democrats, people who voted Joe Biden into office, are really looking at this guy and saying, yeah, everything's good. Or they're looking at this guy and realizing something's off with him, but they're being told everything's okay. And it does make you really question, okay, if they're willing to lie about that, and that's a pretty big one. This is the leader of not just the United States, this is the leader of the free world. If you're willing to lie about that, what else is it that you're lying about to all of us? And I think for a lot of people, they were like, I don't know how anybody could vote for a party who would go out of their way to lie about something so obvious. But anyway, so you started noticing the same issues that I think a lot of us did around the country. And what happened?
Exactly. A lot of people had speculation. A lot of people, I think, lost trust in the legacy mainstream media.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to, continue. By this point, this was after the debate, and we were hearing whispers about Joe Biden was going to drop out. Oh, next month, next week, by Sunday, and all those things ended up being true. But before Joe Biden dropped out of the debate, Trump's first assassination attempt happened. And I still remember where I was. I was very emotional when it happened. I never want to see anyone die or be hurt in this way. Political violence is never, ever acceptable. And it was an absolute miracle in my opinion that he was even alive and survived that. So it really touched me, honestly. And so when I noticed that, Google, like the autocomplete didn't have, the full Trump, assassination in the title.
Yeah, you would type it in and it would say, assassination attempt of, and then it would complete it with like John F. Kennedy, or it would go down Abraham Lincoln. It would never give you Donald Trump, right? Like they made sure that wasn't even available to people.
Right, exactly. And I noticed that. I think that was the first time I really started to think, okay, I have a little free speech issue. I think that was really budding there with Google, and then learning about what happened with Facebook. And I saw that Mark Zuckerberg did actually end up submitting a letter to the Judiciary Committee where he, apologized for censoring Americans in 2020. And this was all something that I learned about this year. And I think that was a story that maybe was suppressed along with the Biden laptop story, but that's a whole nother issue. Yeah. But I started to distrust the media a lot. And I started to realize that tech companies were really cozying up with the Biden-Harris administration. And that was something that kind of made me upset, because I thought to myself, even if it benefited me that you couldn't find any information about my political opponent, I wouldn't want it to be that way. I would want people to come to an organic conclusion about any kind of political candidate. And so that was something that really bothered me. So Joe Biden at this point dropped out after Trump's assassination attempt. This was July 21st. And the same day we got an email from leadership, and they told us, by the way, here are your talking points, and Kamala Harris is going to be your nominee. It was not a question of if, it was not a question of, do you want to vote for her? There was no questions. It was, she is your nominee now. Wow. And I knew that to stay in the Democratic Party, it was a very hierarchical party. It was a very controlling party. And I think I was privy to that this year as I started to really gather what it would be like to be in the party. And I knew that I had to stay in line if I wanted to be part of it. And at this point, I wasn't ready to leave my party. A lot of my friends were still in it. I was still.
Well, and it's hard. Audrey, it's hard too. I think That's the one thing I give anyone a massive amount of credit who is able to have that moment of reflection within yourself, because it's hard to say like what I've been doing for so long is wrong, or I was misled, or it's a bit of a lie. It's hard for people to come to that conclusion and say everything that I believed and that I put so much energy into is actually opposite of what I thought, and I actually align more over here. That is a very difficult thing for people to have a moment of self-reflection and really come to terms with something like that. It doesn't happen a lot. And I understand why a lot of people never make that leap. And yeah, you have friends and your whole family. What was your family, by the way, before you finish all this? What was your family's thinking around this? Did you ever have a conversation with any of them about it?
Yes, me and my family, we've always talked about politics, and we are not the kind of family that would ever disown anybody for their political beliefs. I even have members of my family that are Republican. So it was never going to be a question of, oh, you're a Trump supporter, I'm going to disown you. So it was never that. And same thing with my close friends. And I think that they watched me.
Good.
Yeah. And I think that they watched me go through this process. So it wasn't a surprise to them at all. I did not tell like my larger group of friends about it. And I think I went to one of the most liberal colleges probably in the country, Barnard College of Columbia University. It's a historically women's college. And so my larger circle had no idea that I was, having these changes. But, I went to the DNC with an open mind, felt begrudgingly, that I had to vote for Kamala Harris. And the delegation whips had to reach out to me 3 times to submit my ballot. And I still did it anyway, but, I still went to the DNC. I was thinking, if I can go and I can be re-inspired, I think, to
Right.
lifelong Democrat that I was, then, I'll stay in the party. So I think the DNC is also a time period where people do earn votes. You can't just tell people who to vote for and expect that, they're going to give you, their allegiance, I guess.
That's how it was supposed to be. That was the whole idea, is that you could have several people who are all running for the position of president, right? And you could say, well, no, the delegation from Georgia says that we actually want to support the other person. That was kind of the whole idea and the design of these conventions. But yeah, I get it. Like, you felt like I have no other option here. They didn't give me another option. It's just, you got to support Kamala Harris.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
began a whole slew of other issues. I think that when you install a candidate, especially one like Kamala Harris, they kind of did hide her in the background in the White House for a while. We didn't know too much about her. So the DNC was not only a chance for her to introduce herself to the country, it was also a chance for her to introduce herself to the delegates themselves, because we didn't know about her. And so I think later, when some of her policy positions kind of came out, it alienated certain people in the party. Me personally, I would not support somebody that would want a mandated buyback program of assault rifles. I think if there was a primary, these things would have been straightened out, because that to me would have been a deal breaker.
Can I ask you, before we get off the convention specifically, one of the things that dawned on me as I was watching it was that Kamala Harris really wasn't very present for much of that convention. If you look at the Republican convention, Donald Trump was there every single night. Like, he showed up at, I don't know, 7:00 or so, and the speeches went until like 11, and he was there for a lot of it and was very present and involved. And I think that meant a lot to the delegates and to the people probably watching at home, that he was there, and the folks obviously on stage who were speaking. But what I noticed was that Kamala Harris, like, she came out one night, maybe it was the first night or the second night, and did a little, like, I don't know, 30-second speech or something. And then she left, and then she wasn't even physically there. I think she went to Wisconsin or somewhere else during the time that the convention was actually underway, and those other nights of the convention, until obviously the night she spoke. She wasn't there when Tim Walz spoke, I remember. Was that something that anybody talked about? Because to me, I was like, it's kind of like a bit of a snub, as far as I'm concerned, to the people who worked really hard to put the convention on, to all the speakers you invited there to be a part of it, and the delegates too, who want to see their potential nominee, in the flesh as much as possible.
I think the thing that was funny to me was that as soon as I got off the plane, they were already telling me, well, I have it on good authority that Beyonce is going to be there.
Oh, the Beyonce thing.
So they tell us that as soon as I got off the plane, it was a rumor that started, quote unquote rumor. I guess it's really not anymore. But they told us that for Thursday, I guess, so everybody would be on the floor. So it would look like she had a lot of support. And that pretty much was what happened in hindsight. I still remember having the video of like, oh my gosh, Beyonce is going to come out at any point now. And it just never happened. But I thought that was something that was super funny. Another thing that was funny was, I think the DNC really was like a sugar high. And a lot of the young delegates, the Gen Z delegates and the Gen Z Democrats were kind of finding things about Kamala Harris that went viral. And one of the things that went viral was her famous, you'd think you just fell out of a coconut tree moment. And it was so funny that us young delegates, we kind of ran with it at the moment because we kind of thought it was funny. We thought it was like a one-off moment. And so we were like, oh, like, let's print out like coconut trees. Like, let's go run with this. And I could sense from the Democratic Party leadership that they really didn't want us to lean into it. And in hindsight, I'm looking back and I'm thinking, oh, like they didn't want us to lean into the coconut tree thing because they knew it was something emblematic of her character. They knew that she would always create these word salad kind of moments. And so they didn't really want us to run with it because they knew her better than we did. And so I think that it was also just something that wasn't planned out very well from the beginning. And there should have been an open convention. I was elected to go to the DNC and for this exact scenario, be able to choose the presidential nominee and vote for somebody. There should have been a pool of candidates. Her name was the only one that was on the ballot. And I think this would have been the first convention where the presidential nominee was like less democratically elected than the delegates themselves. Because like
that's so true.
Which is crazy because like I had to give a speech. I had to have a campaign. My name was on the ballot, same as 30 other people. And I think this also was kind of a lesson where you learn that you shouldn't maybe want the things that you're not ready for. And I think that with Kamala Harris, she just wasn't a tested candidate yet. A lot of issues would have came out if we had a primary, I think, with just some of the things that would have alienated more conservative or moderate Democrats. And so, there are a lot of issues that we had with her.
So let me ask you this. So you were at the DNC, you kind of went there and you're like, maybe this will be the moment, maybe I'll be re-energized and I'll really feel like my support here is the right thing to do. And was there something specific though that happened at the DNC that made you second guess your support after you got there? We've all seen how quickly life can change. The outcome of a single event can impact our entire nation. Now more than ever, it's crucial to be prepared. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your family with ReadyWise emergency food. With ReadyWise emergency food, you're covered not just for the worst, but for anything life throws your way. Enjoy peace of mind knowing you have delicious, nutritious meals ready when your family needs them. ReadyWise has a huge selection of freeze-dried meals from breakfast to pasta dishes. You can be assured your food will be good to eat when you need it with their 25-year shelf life. ReadyWise is an American company that cares about its fellow citizens, you, and is committed to your safety. Visit ReadyWise.com and use promo code TRUMP20 at checkout for 20% off any regular priced items. That's ReadyWise.com, promo code TRUMP20. The story of MyPillow is a testament to faith and transformation. Mike Lindell, once battling addiction, found a new path when he embraced faith and began following Jesus. In gratitude, Mike is excited to share an exclusive offer with our listeners. Right now, the standard MyPillow is available for less than $15, a savings that's too good to pass up. There's a limit of 10 per customer, so don't wait to take advantage of this amazing deal now with promo code TRUMP. Mike believes God gave him the idea for MyPillow in a dream, and it's designed with your comfort in mind. The pillow holds its shape and adapts perfectly to your unique sleep position, helping keep your neck aligned for the best night's sleep. And there's more. Take home a 4-piece kitchen set for only $25. Enjoy their new mattress topper starting at just $99.99, or pick up the luxurious MyPillow bed sheets starting at $49.98. Visit mypillow.com and use promo code TRUMP to unlock huge discounts. Don't miss out. Order today.
The DNC, I think, genuinely was a sugar high. So I think that people, were excited to go and we're excited to see friends and be a part of the moment. But at the same time, I think that the issues came after the DNC when we actually learned about our candidate. The order is supposed to be we know about the candidate and then we confirm it at the DNC. So for this exact reason. And so when her policy decisions kind of came out and when we started to see her, speak more, doing interviews and things like that, we found that she couldn't really articulate her vision very well. A lot of the issues were inflation, the economy, the border. She didn't really have great policies on that. And I think it really made me start looking into Trump's policies, but also I did watch her debate, and it was funny, like the moment of like the cats and dogs moment. It really made me actually look into what was going on in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that disturbed me. I noticed that a lot of the migrants were getting government benefits that like homeless veterans and homeless Americans weren't getting, and I think that was something that really bothered me. I wish I could have rewritten Oprah's speech where she, was talking about joy. She should have just said, well, look under your chairs. If you're anything but an American citizen, you'll find driver's license, you'll find a new car, you'll find a new house, you'll find free food on the taxpayer's dime, which
totally
resonate with me. So
wow.
I think things that really started to bother me. And again, like these were things that snowballed, and I was putting these pieces together. And I really realized that the Democratic Party was the party of the elite and party of corporations, and party of red tape and regulation. And it's a shame that I had to go all the way to the Federal Register to read about Trump's policies. I read them all from 2016 to 2020. I really liked his housing policies. I even made like a little list of all my top 14 policies that I liked. I put it out before the election so people could make an informed decision. And yeah, it was a great win at the end of the day. But at the same time, I knew that this switch was coming at some point. And I knew that for my party, a vote for Trump, it would just be over. And, the people keep telling us, like the media, that this election was going to be so close and that it was going to come down to maybe even one vote. And so I took that to heart. I was really thinking, well, what if my vote is, and I live in the swing state of Georgia, is the one, switches the election. So I knew I wasn't going to vote for Kamala Harris before I knew I was going to like vote for Trump. I thought I just wasn't going to vote because I wasn't ready to leave my party. But it really started to get to me that I really did want to vote for Trump. And, and at some point I knew that regardless of the results of the election, I would switch over anyway. So this whole thing was going to come from in one way or another. So
that's amazing. By the way, first of all, kudos to you for having the ability to really reflect on a party that really was part of your identity. Look, if you're a delegate at the DNC, that's a big deal. And that is part of your identity and what you've always known. And to really be able to say, I don't know that I can vote for this party and their candidate anymore. That's huge. But it is one thing, to your point, to say, I'm not going to vote for, the Democrat nominee. But it is a completely different thing to go and vote for the other person on the other side of the aisle, not the least of which is Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like the things that have been said about this man, and you talk about lying. They not only did the media lie about Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, specifically, and all that was the lack of things that were really talked about with Biden, but they also lied about Donald Trump. Were you surprised though when you started reading about the policies that Donald Trump had put in place? Like, what was the moment where you said, hey, I'm now going to go vote for Donald Trump? Like, where was that switch for you? Because that's another hurdle to jump. It's one thing to say, I'm leaving the Democrats, I'm not going to vote for their candidate, but to go over, say, actually, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, this guy who they've tried to vilify, tell me he's a monster, Hitler, all these things. How did you make that switch?
So when I read Executive Order, I think it was 13979 of Trump's policy.
I love it. You got them all down to the numbers. Wow.
This was actually a policy that I wrote a paper about at Columbia. And it was like the prompt. Wow. Yeah, the prompt was, come up with some original policy that you think would be great for the federal government. And I wrote this when I was a Democrat. So either way, like it would have been great. So it's a rule about subdelegation. And usually what happens in executive office is that the president, elects somebody, and well, not elect somebody, they are elected by people. That's why we have the rule of the governed and consent of the governed. So the president is elected, and then they choose and appoint top bureaucrats. And then those top bureaucrats have civil servants that are these nameless, faceless bureaucrats. We don't really know what they're doing. So with what usually happens in these administrations is that the president, elects top bureaucrats, and those top bureaucrats subdelegate their power to a bunch of faceless, nameless civil servants. And they can create rules, they can create regulations, and we don't really know what they're doing because if you were a top bureaucrat or the president, everything that you do has to be published in the Federal Register. So it's a way to evade accountability. It's a way, to evade transparency if you just subdelegate your power to these low-level employees, and we don't know what they're doing because it's not published anywhere. So a rule that I naturally came up with was just like, you know what, let's just publish everything on the Federal Register. And it was similar to Trump's policy, which was that, you know what, we're not going to have this subdelegation thing happen anymore. Whatever you do has to be signed off by a higher level, top bureaucrat or somebody higher. And that was something that I noticed immediately. It was something that really stuck with me. It was a policy that, I would have done.
Yeah.
And what I realized that the Trump presidency, or like what he did in 2016 to 2020, was really trying to increase accountability and increase transparency. I think it really started to click like why they wanted to come after him. Because like the last thing people in Washington, D.C. want is, accountability and transparency.
Yeah,
so
they like the way things are going there. They don't have to answer to anybody. They do whatever they want. It's just like the good old boys club. They can just get away with whatever. And yeah, no one's the wiser. They spend a lot of money, but it's just taxpayer dollars. We'll just spend. And you're right. That is one of the reasons I think a lot of people believe that there was, such an effort to prevent Donald Trump from first becoming our party's nominee. And then specifically, anything you could do to keep him from winning the presidency, I think was maybe what a lot of people thought was happening. And certainly it didn't work. But that's really cool. I love that you took the time to go research that. And I think what's happened to a lot of people is a lot of people have red pilled themselves. The deeper you dig into the truth about things, the more I think people are like, wait a minute, all these things they've been telling me about this guy really aren't true. And what he really wanted to do was make the country a better place for us, provide more transparency, reform the federal government so it's not bloated and overspending and all of the things. And I do think, Audrey, we're going to have that coming up very soon with Doge, with the whole host of people that are going to be going in on January 20th alongside Donald Trump. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your vote. Thank you for taking the time to do things that people don't often do. There's a knee-jerk reaction out there to listen to what's spoon-fed to you by the mainstream media and say like, oh, then I'm going to believe this. This guy's no good because they tell me on MSDNC that he's a bad guy, that he wants to be a dictator on day one. So thank you for that. But before I let you go, I want to ask you, first of all, did you receive any backlash from your friends, family, people in the party, the Democrat Party, that you were part of for so long, for obviously becoming more of a Republican and voting for Donald Trump? But then I want to also know about the Democrats. Do you think that after this election, they're going to decide that they need to move more to the middle? Do you think they move further left now? Like, what do you think happens within that party?
Right. So to your first question, the only opinions I really cared about was those of my family and my close friends. So all the other comments, I was like, whatever. I expected I was going to be excommunicated from the Democratic Party. And I also expected like some people wouldn't respect my opinion, people I worked with before. Some of them did surprise me. Some of them were like, I could never be friends with a Republican. That did genuinely surprise me.
Wow.
But yeah, it was very surprising. But, I think that it's important to do brave things in the world. I think that, they say that Washington, D.C. lacks people with brains. I think it lacks people with spines, people who are brave and can say, what they want and can't be controlled. And I think I value more so now. So I think it's important, I think the world is a better place with brave people in it. So I decided to come out publicly with it. And I think people are curious to see, what's going to happen to these people who get all this backlash and what's going to happen to, people who are, who have a lot of enemies, for people who are trying to take them down. And I think that Trump in that way is actually a very inspiring person, whether you love him or you hate him. Like they tried to indict him, they tried to impeach him, they tried to beat him, they tried to raise $1 billion to defeat him. They still couldn't do it. I mean, it's kind of a story really about resiliency, I think.
Yeah.
Regardless. So I thought that that was pretty inspiring. And I think that when people take a stand like that, more people are encouraged to do the same thing. I always say that courage is contagious. So I think that that's a great thing. As far as the Democratic Party, I think that they're in between a rock and a hard place right now because there is a faction of the Democratic Party that almost like my parents are like the target demographic, like people who thought that Kamala Harris canvassing with not canvassing but campaigning with Liz Cheney was like a show of unity. Like there are people out there who thought that, which is very interesting, including my parents. I'm trying to convert. Very interesting that they thought that was like, oh, like Liz Cheney has been excommunicated in every party. I think so.
Yeah.
But, you know, so that was interesting to me. So they have to keep, I guess, like more moderate Democrats, but they also have to appease a not so small faction of the left. And I think that some of the left's culture issues are not going to jive well with, you know, more conservative Democrats that are in the South and in the Midwest. So I think that they have to appease those people while also holding on to their own base, or not base necessarily, but, you know, just more moderate people to hold like a big. So I think that they're in between a rock and a hard place. I'm curious to see if they're going to bend or if they're going to break. I've heard some people talking about I want to have a third party. But I think that also one of the things that made me leave the Democratic Party after the installation of Kamala Harris, I learned that it wasn't an exception to the rule. I began to think back to 2020 and 2016 with the Democratic Party. I was too young to really understand this, but the Democratic Party with, you know, sabotaging certain candidates. I think Bernie Sanders, even though I disagree with his politics, is a prime example of that. They are actually pretty of democracy. They are not proponents of democracy, in my opinion. And I think a lot of the things that they say are actually a projection. And they say they care about democracy. I think they actually care about bureaucracy, which is like their own jobs and trying to protect that. And I think that those pieces really came together for me this election. But yeah, I think that one thing I respected about the Republican Party is that you guys always kept with the direction of democracy. I'm sure that there were people in the Republican Party who didn't want to see Trump as the nominee, but what the Republicans didn't do that the Democrats did do was sabotage it and, you know, had the ruling elite have their way. And I always respected that, you know what, at least you guys chose your candidate. And I think that that's a great thing. And I think that there is new growth also in the Republican Party. You guys have been reaching demographics that you haven't historically reached before. And I think that that is something new. It's a breath of fresh air. The Republican Party isn't just of Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney anymore. So I think that the Republican Party has grown and it's shifted. And I really like the America First movement. And the Democrat Party has a lot of soul searching to do, I think. So
yeah, it's interesting. You know, I will, and just in closing, I really think that people like you who kind of went out on a limb and said, I've never done this before, but I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. I know all the things they've said about this guy, but I do think my life felt better when he was in office, or whatever your reason, whatever policy point that he presented, and you said, yeah, I think that that's something that I could vote for, but I'm not sure. I'm going to make a prediction right now that Donald Trump is going to shock people in such a way that I actually believe, and the irony of it is incredible based on what they've said about this man, that he will be a great unifier. He says that success will be his revenge. Success will unify us as a country and bring us together. And I actually really believe that. I think that no one knows better than this guy, who has had everything thrown his way, has had so many systems weaponized against him, how important it is to make sure that that never happens to another American, to really be as transparent as he possibly can, to get Washington, D.C. in a place where the American people actually feel decent about it for once, because so many people distrust our federal government and all of the agencies. I think he is going to be the person who does it. And I believe that so many people who maybe were like, oh, I don't know, I'll vote for Donald Trump, are going to be so proud of that vote 4 years from now. And I think you're right. I think our party is a wide open tent. We want everybody to feel at home in the Republican Party. And if you're a person who is a Democrat this morning, but you say, you know what, I just want to come check out the party, you're welcome to come check us out. We want everybody to come in here. And so I think it's been very interesting to see that of all people, it's been Donald Trump, a billionaire businessman a TV star from New York City who has changed the face of politics, but really changed our party in so many incredible ways. And we've welcomed people, Audrey, like you in, and we're so happy to have you. So thank you for sharing your story here with us. I believe you're going to have some incredible, bright things in your future. You obviously understand so much about politics and have spent a lot of time, a lot of your life working in it. So thank you for the vote and the vote of confidence, truly, in Donald Trump and in our party. I promise you that will be a vote well cast. And I think we're going to make you very proud over the next 4 years. So if people want to keep up with you, is there some way that people can follow you or find you?
Yes, you can follow me on X at Audrey J. McNeal, and you can also follow my Instagram at the same thing, Audrey J. McNeal. And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you to Audrey McNeal for being here today. And to everybody at home, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. And I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.